So, last video, I talked about Super Castlevania 4. I thought it was a pretty solid game. While it definitely lacked the challenge of 1 and 3, I thought it made up for it with some pretty solid level design, amazing aesthetics, and a pretty good showing of the SNES's technical capabilities. 1 and 3 were still better though. So, yeah, Castlevania started the 4th generation with a bang. But before we talk about the focus of this video, I should probably talk about something pretty important to this game, being the console it released on. You see, in America, the 4th generation was pretty much fought between the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. But things were a bit different in Japan. You see, the company Hudson Soft and NEC collaborated and beat both Sega and Nintendo to the punch, releasing the PC Engine in 1987. Or, as it's known in America, the TurboGrafx 16. Yeah, this thing flopped in America, due to the fact it was released 2 years later, after Sega had already made the Genesis, and it just wasn't marketed very well. This resulted in the American library only getting 130 of the overall 672 games released for the system. Now, to be honest, there's only like 4 games on this system that I give a shit about. 2 of which are ports of games I don't really care for, that are just connected to the series I like, and the other is a port of a game I do like, but I think the original is better. Yeah, sorry. I know this console has its fans, one of which is my dad, but like, yeah, I'm not one of them. But one of the games I do like is the topic of this very video, Castlevania Rondo of Blood. This game was developed for the CD-ROM add-on for the console, which, take a wild guess what kind of games it played. In 1993, the game released, only in Japan. It did make it to the States eventually, with a full-on English dub too. It just took a few 14 years. Of course, I'm playing the English version, but I've talked about everything around this game long enough. Let's do something every LARPer fears. Actually playing the game I'm talking about. We get an opening cutscene with this narration about Dracula returning, as he, does that after a woman is sacrificed for him. So after starting, we head into the file select and once again, name ourselves. I don't know. Where do I go? Burger. When we actually start the game, we get another cutscene showing Richter, or Belmont for this game, finding his town being attacked by Dracula's forces, with his girlfriend Annette being kidnapped in the middle of it. We then get this little opening sequence where Death shows up and goes, "Time to test your strength!" And then he shoots this big green thingy at us and then goes, "Next time won't be so easy." Which is pretty cool. Okay, so now we're done with that little prologue level. Now we're in the actual first level, which is the Burning Town. So first off, this game looks pretty good. It's not as detailed or technically impressive as Super Castlevania 4, but it's got a good art style, being way more stylized and a bit more anime compared to 4, which is definitely going for a more realistic look. And honestly, I prefer Rondo's more stylized sprites. The more stylized, more vivid look definitely lends itself better to sprite art. I think the only thing that Rondo doesn't do as well would be the background. Something about them just doesn't look as polished as nearly every other game in this series. Especially whenever they try to do stone, it just looks a little weird. But otherwise, the game looks great. And Konami knew that because they started reusing these sprites a lot. The music's good too, as should be expected by now. Not a single one of these games have had bad music at this point. It's even better now that it's fully orchestrated, or well, most of it is. You see, there's like a few songs that aren't fully orchestrated, and it's really easy to tell. We go from this fully orchestrated, amazing version of Vampire Killer to this. It's not that bad, it's just kind of funny. There's also the fact that this game is, I think, the first Castlevania to have voice acting. And I can't comment on the English dub given that it was, well, made 14 years after the game released. I guess I could try to judge the original Japanese voice acting. I don't understand Japanese. Enough about presentation, what about the gameplay? Well, I'm happy to say that the controls have been reverted back to the older style, instead of the more mobile controls from 4. I know a lot of people like how 4 felt, and heck, I didn't even hate it. I thought it was still good. I just think that they made the game less challenging. But yeah, Rondo of Blood pretty much has the same controls as Castlevania 1. Fixed jump, single direction whip attacks, heck, they even got rid of the dedicated item buttons since the TurboGrafx controller only has 2 buttons on it. The only things they added was a backflip, which is very situational, and a strafe, which is also very situational. Probably the most noteworthy thing they added was an ability called an item crash, where Richter basically does a more powerful version of whatever his item is, with most of them being screen nukes. I don't mind it, although I almost always use it during boss fights. Besides those 3 things, which are all situational, including the item crash, the gameplay is pretty much exactly like the NES games. Alright, level design time. So this opening level follows the typical Castlevania opening tradition of being not very challenging. It's mostly focused on being full of cool spectacle as you run through the town from Castlevania 2, fight off skeletons, fight rock golems, all while this iconic song plays. It's called Divine Bloodline. Oh my god, it's fantastic. The boss here is a wyvern, and while I think the bosses in this game are really good, this one doesn't really set a good example. You mostly just spam the axe and he's dead. All it does for me is give me Castlevania 1 flashbacks. The next level, we run through the gates of Dracula's castle. And this level is mostly a remake of Stage 1 from Castlevania 1, even featuring that CD quality remix of Vampire Killer I mentioned earlier. There is a new section at the start with all these enemies at the front gates, including these stupid, dumb, stupid, annoying, idiotic, stupid, dumb, fucking crows. And also we get chased by this demonic bull thing, and in this chase we find this key. And said key opens up this locked door where we find this priest doing something to this kid. We scare him off and rescue the kid. Her name is Maria Renard, and her family are apparently also vampire hunters. Richter tells her to go because, I mean, she's like 12, but she's adamant that she can do fine by herself. And Richter just laughs. And you can actually play as her. And she's like overpowered as f***. She can not only adjust her jump arc, she can double jump, her attacks are faster, and her sub-weapons are really powerful. Yeah, she's basically the game's easy mode, and I mean, that's a pretty fun way of approaching it. It also lets more people see the rest of the game without hampering the difficulty of Richter's stages. Anyways, the boss of the stage is a werewolf, and this is what I mean by this game's boss as being really good. He takes a decent chunk of health from being hit, but he moves really fast, meaning it's hard to hit him. It avoids this issue some games have where the bosses go down in like 2 seconds and you don't really ever have to think about the pattern that hard. But it also avoids the opposite issue where some games, aka bad games, have bosses that are f***ing miserable to fight and barely take any damage while also dealing a ton of damage to you. Ninja Gaiden 3 Rage's Edge. Anyways, back to Castlevania. The werewolf is a pretty good boss, and he may actually be one of the harder bosses in the game just because of how fast he moves. But once we beat him, he turns back into a human. Oh my god, his dick's out. I gotta censor it. There. A little more. Okay, a little more. A little more. There. The next level takes place in a church, and we get another great remix, this time with Bloody Tears. The level's full of skeletons swinging around, Medusa heads, stupid flea men. The coolest part is right at the end, where there's these 2 paths leading to the boss. There's the top one, and a bottom one that you fall to if you stink! Said boss is a Minotaur, and he's pretty good. He's not as hard as the werewolf because he's slower, but he's still a good boss. The only thing I gotta complain about is that the attack that he lets out after dying is near impossible to dodge. Next level, we run through the dungeons with a remix of Beginning from Castlevania 3. The level's pretty good, although I never really cared for the Dragon Skull mini-boss they put in. It was always really obnoxious to try and hit. There's also this section with these stairs and these rolling balls for some... Why does Dracula have these? There's also this metal ball that you can hit and then make do this. The boss here is a Dullahan, and he's another good one, though he doesn't get stunned from your attack, so he's a bit harder than the Minotaur. Next, we end up at this ghost ship, but we're gonna hold off on covering that level, because this game has an entire set of alternate levels. Yeah, near the end of the first stage, you can break these bricks to find an alternate underground area, which not only leads to this plant that lets out the most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard, but also lead to an alternate boss, which is fine, I guess, and an alternate level 2. So it's this little lake bridge, and the music in it is pretty good. Now, beating the stage normally just brings you back to the regular stage 3. So you have to take this optional path with the most goated character ever, the boat guy, and this optional path is really short and like there's no level design, and I don't really like it as much. There's a lot of the stage that you miss, like the whole set piece of it turning to night, or the whole enemy exclusive to this stage, the spiders. It makes it so that most people will just skip like most of the stage on their playthroughs, which I don't think would be a problem if they didn't just put it farther than the beginning of the stage. Anyways, the alternate path leads to a graveyard, and it's a pretty good level. You got these balls and chains, living tombstones, this guy, quicksand. I don't really care for quicksand. You do have to skip the second half to continue on the alternate path, and that's a bit of a shame, because the second half has a really nice background. There's also another secret you can find in this level. Near the start of the second half, you can go down these stairs to find this woman praying, who thinks Richter is a guardian angel. Doesn't really do anything, but I don't know. Cutscene's nice. Anyways, the boss of this level is this little stupid, ugly, stupid eye freak guy. I don't like him. He just kind of spams shit all over the screen. Next level takes place at this like little lake area, and oh my god, the music. The level's pretty good. The frogs are a bit annoying, but the actual level itself is good. I think the alternate path is a bit simple, but hey, the goat makes his grand return. Also, after solving this little frog statue puzzle, we find another girl who heals Richter. The boss, who I guess lives in the green dimension or something, is Carmilla from Castlevania 2, but she looks a little different. She's a little better than the eye guy, but I think she still suffers from just spamming all over the screen. Oh, and her, she's a little annoying. You gotta kill her at the end. Alright, we're back at the ghost ship, and now I can actually talk about this level. First of all, great music. The level is definitely harder than the others, especially this last screen with all these enemies, though the first half can be skipped by this little shortcut. At the end of the stage, our boss ends up being deaf, and he sounds a bit different than last time.
Time to catch your breath.
I think he has a cold. The fight with Death is pretty good. First phase is pretty typical. You dodge the sights, you try to hit Death when you can. In the second phase, Death starts attacking more directly, but you still have to dodge his sights. Somehow, I managed to kill him with a single item crash. But I promise it's a good boss. Just trust me, bro. After that, we get a cutscene between Dracula and Annette. Remember her? She's Richter's girlfriend. Where Dracula basically tries to convince her to become a vampire and say that he's not that bad. It's not super complicated. The only thing I really took from this is that Dracula's English dub voice sounds like the English voice actor for Dio Brando.
What are you afraid of? In exchange for your blood, you can gain eternal life and beauty from me, can you not? Please, it's a simple matter. I get what I need, and you benefit as well. And then together, you and I shall reign over this world.
There's an interesting walk. Apparently, with decades of the proper training, mere humans can enable themselves to float through the air. But in only a single night, I attained power far surpassing that of any human guru.
And then I looked up his voice actor, and it's the same dude who voiced Dio. Anyways, the next level is a boss rush, where we fight against these monsters summoned by Dracula's Dark Priest, Shark. The first one, the bat, isn't that hard. You just have to make sure to get rid of those fireballs it spits out. Medusa is a lot more difficult, though. She can turn you to stone, she moves a bit faster, and she makes you deal with 3 projectiles at once. The Mummy, though, is a weird difficulty spike, since the attack where it launches out all these bandages is really annoying to dodge. Weirdly enough, Frankenstein's monster is way easier to dodge, and his attacks are better telegraphed and not all over half the screen. After that, we finally fight the Dark Priest Shirt himself, as he attacks with something every priest uses. Giant f***ing balls. After all the other bosses, he's just okay. After Shag dies, we head on to our next and last normal level, the Clock Tower. This stage is really difficult, starting with this opening section featuring these bats that can and probably will knock you off, because the only thing that kills them in a single hit is the axe you get at the start of the level. After that, we enter the Clock Tower section properly. It's got the typical Clock Tower tropes, and harpies that can throw knives at you and then grab you afterwards. In this section, you can actually find a key by killing this bird, and you can use that key to finally save Annette. Richter and her reunite before she basically says, "No, don't kill Dracula, that's too dangerous," which, girl, have you seen the shit this guy fought off just to get to this point? Who else could kill Oh yeah, Maria. Anyways, we continue to the end of the stage where we start dealing with armor guys and their skeleton cats. We also have these stupid enemies which can fill the screen with bones, and they can be pretty annoying, especially since they can corner you a lot, but they're not too bad. After jumping through these swinging pendulums, we enter the boss room and Shaq's alive? Yeah, so we gotta fight Dark Priest Shoots Ghosts, as he basically sends out a bunch of dead monsters at you. The bats in the bowl aren't that hard to dodge, but the dragon is a bit tricky, especially since it can corner you easily, and you kinda need to be in the corners to hit sharp. Which is not a bad boss, not at all, it's still fun to fight, and Shat makes funny noises. So he dies again, and we finally get to the man himself, Jorkula. His boss ain't that great, actually. The first phase is like a really simple version of his Castlevania 1 boss, despite the fact that he even has an extra attack. It's just very easy to dodge, and honestly just kind of makes him boring. I do have to say, this is the most joyous version of Dracula yet. Look at how much he laughs. My man's having a swell time. Anyways, the second phase, he turns into a giant monster, and like, the only thing making him remotely difficult is that touching him does way more damage than it probably should, but he's taken out pretty easily by using item crashes. After that, Richter and Dracula share some words, as Dracula is basically like, "Humanity sucks and is evil, and I'm proof of that." And then Richter's like, "No, nuh-uh." And then Drac responds, "What do you mean, nuh-uh?" And then the castle crumbles and Richter heads home. Maria's ending is a bit similar, but, you know, she's a dumb little kid, so she literally just says,
"I don't understand what that means. No matter how complicated you make it, a bad thing is still a bad thing."
And then she goes through a whole lot of Looney Tunes sequence when the castle crumbles. So, what's my overall opinion? I think this game's great. It feels as if it took the simplicity and tightness of Castlevania 1 and just expanded on it. It's got more stages, great bosses, a whole separate character, cutscenes, and some amazing sprite work. Needless to say, this game's a fan favorite, and yeah, it's my favorite Castlevania in this style. It was pretty popular when it came out in Japan, and has gone on to be one of the most referenced Castlevania games in the series, even getting its own sequel, which you may or may not have heard about. Now, despite the game not releasing here back then, we did get something resembling it. It was an SNES retelling called Dracula X, and it was dog and pretty much an entirely different game. The actual game proper finally released in 2007 with the Dracula X Chronicles for the PSP, a full-on 3D, 2D remake of the game, which is, in my opinion, pretty good. It was redone with the modern Castlevania art style, and I like the redesigns, especially Dracula. He looked like a weirdo in the original. I don't think it's as good as the original. The physics are off, and the sprite work was a bit more charming. Needless to say, this is a great package. Even if it's lost a bit of its luster now with all these collections. What else can I mention? There's like a secret stage. It's like stupid difficult. Oh, the TurboGrafx has a 6-button mode. I wonder what that's. Holy shit! By the way, sorry this video took so long.